Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, female 21, lost my mom when I was 14. Dad remarried when I was 17. My stepmom has a daughter, female 15. She and Dad had a boy, male 3, and now she just gave birth to a little girl. Anyway, I've worked since I was 16 to save money to buy stuff for me. When I turned 18, Dad said I was now an adult and should start paying rent. It was only $500, a symbolic amount since he would still cover food and other essentials. I was mad and we fought, but in the end, I accepted, and that was the arrangement until 7 months ago. Dad came to me saying I had 2 months to move out. Stepmom was pregnant, and they would need my room for the baby, which is insane because they both have private offices. My stepmom doesn't even need one since she's a stay-at-home mom since the birth of my baby brother. Nonetheless, they told me I had to move. By the way, just an addendum, me and stepmom get along fine. We don't fight or bicker. I don't think this was an evil stepmom moment, but who knows. Me and stepsister are actually pretty close. I help her with homework and talk about her personal problems. I do love her very much. Back to the story. I don't know what to do. I'm going to a college. I want to be a civil engineer and work part-time. I don't have the means to live by myself. I called my aunt asking if I could move in with her for the time being until I figured something out. Offered to pay rent and all. She was aghast at what Dad was doing. She said I absolutely could live with her. No rent needed, but also said she was going to deal with my dad. The next day, Grandpa came to our house and they talked privately. I could hear my dad's angry voice, but couldn't understand anything being said. After a while, Grandpa came to my room and said I had 3 choices. The first was continue living with Dad and stepmom like I was doing. Nothing would change except without paying rent. The second was moving in with him and Grandma or my aunt. Third was a place of my own, and he would pay rent and costs for me. He said I didn't need to choose now. I could keep living with my dad, and if I changed my mind, to just tell him. I was actually relieved I could still live with Dad, and that this madness was over. But the following days and weeks, Dad and stepmom were very hostile towards me, and I felt incredibly uncomfortable being in my own home. Even Cassie picked this up and asked me why they were angry at me. So I decided to move out and told Grandpa. He said he would take care of everything. A few weeks later, he moved me into one of his rental units. The apartment is lovely. He bought me a fridge, stove, and other essential items. He gave me a check for $15,000, saying this money is to help me start living on my own, and that as long as I'm working or studying, I can live there rent-free for as long as I want. My dad and I have been pretty low contact since I moved out. He never came to visit me, or I visit them. I miss them a lot, especially my stepsister, but I'm still hurt. 2 weeks ago, my stepmom gave birth. I visited them in the hospital. It was a little awkward, but nice seeing them and my baby sister. Anyway, a few days ago Dad calls me, saying he misses me, the children miss me, and I should move back home. He apologized for asking me to move out, etc., etc., and I told him I would think about it. Yesterday I visited my aunt and was telling her what Dad said, and my cousin laughed a little and said, "I'm sure he does." I asked what he meant, and that's when they told me a lot of, until now, unknown information. Basically, my dad's home is actually my grandpa's, as is my aunt's. Basically, the deal he made with me, he did with all his kids and some grandkids as well. He never wanted any of his family to have to worry about basic stuff like house and food, etc. When I called my aunt that time, she called Grandpa, who was furious with Dad, not only for kicking me out, but also for charging me rent. That day he went to my dad's and tore him a new one and threatened to have him evicted. But now the petty part. You know that $15K Grandpa gave me? It's actually what I paid Dad in rent all that time, and now he's making Dad pay him back. Also, he's charging Dad $1,200 for the rent loss in apartment I'm living in. Call me dumb or naive, but until now, I never realized my dad didn't make that much money. We live in a great house, always went on vacations, and lived very comfortable lives. But I guess Grandpa has always been helping behind the scenes. Now my cousin thinks Dad is struggling, with 3 kids at home, a single income, and having to pay it back to Grandpa. So he says Dad wants me back because he imagines Grandpa will stop punishing him if I'm living with them. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I'm actually loving living on my own these past 6 months, but I do really miss them. I miss my siblings. I miss the life we had before all of this, but I don't know if moving back is the right answer. And also, I'm hurt the reason he wants me back is money. Honestly, I just wanted to vent. He doesn't want OP back home. He needs OP back home. He needs OP to get him out of the situation he has put himself in. OP was only allowed to stay at home because Grandpa stepped in, but OP needs to remember how her dad and stepmom made her feel. They were hostile because they were forced to let OP live there. OP felt unwelcome and unwanted by her own father. Nothing has changed. OP's father only now understands that his horrible actions will have consequences, so he's trying to save his butt. I think OP has an amazing and supportive grandpa and aunt, and she should keep her distance from her father and his new family because they're only going to keep hurting her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I'm so very hurt that your father has hurt you so much. He doesn't want you, though. He wants money. And knowing this is always going to hurt you and chip away at your self-worth. I know it hurts, but going back is not healthy for you. You deserve people in your life who love you unconditionally and want to spend time with you because it's you and without ulterior motives. How about starting new traditions with your aunt and grandparents? They love you and want you around. I wish you all the best. Stay right where you are. You can miss them and love them from afar. Go be with your grandfather and aunt's family. They seem like real family. Also, try to go see a therapist. Think of it this way. Your father is living in a huge house for the price of a small apartment. He's still getting an amazing deal, just not as amazing as it was before. Everyone struggles when their budget is reduced, but that doesn't mean that he won't still be living a very comfortable and subsidized life. Also, I have a feeling your grandfather would be unconvinced to change the rent your father is paying, even if you were to move back. He is charging your father to make a point, not to actually cover your expenses. Enjoy your new apartment and independence. Your father will have to just learn to adapt to a slightly simpler lifestyle. Recently, my brother told me he and sister-in-law are going to TTC in January. I think it's great they want to start a family someday, but sister-in-law's health and/or weight are a concern. She's 5'6" and nearly morbidly obese, if she's not already in that category. I estimate she weighs around 250 pounds, but it's just a guess. I'm a nurse, so it's an educated guess, but I obviously can't say for sure. Her health has already created problems. She claims she can't work any longer, and after the school year ended in May, she made the decision not to return. She taught high school English. Her reasoning was pre-diabetes and back and leg pain problems that made it too difficult. She also said it was dangerous and unhealthy for her to continue working. They've had to borrow money from our parents a handful of times. They say it's to cover medical expenses, which would be understandable, but then continue to spend money on junk food and eating out. For example, they borrowed $1,500 last month. 2 days later, my mom was at their house and said the fridge and pantry were loaded with junk. They're clearly not putting effort into improving their health. So when my brother shared the news with me about TTC, I was overwhelmed. I told him I was excited to become an aunt, but sister-in-law's health worries me. I felt obligated to bring it up because they're family, and as an OB nurse, I have first-hand experience with this and know about the potential dangers surrounding obesity and pregnancy. Both sister-in-law and the baby would be at risk for a number of complications. I didn't go into details, but I did share my general concern and suggested he talk to her about losing some weight before TTC. He said he understood where I was coming from, but they want to be done having kids by 35 and will probably stick to their plan. I could tell he was taken aback by my response, but I didn't realize he was actually mad until later when I received a text from my mom. Apparently, my brother called her and said I was berating him and implied they were irresponsible for TTC. He said I attacked sister-in-law and made fun of her weight, which was not true. I cleared everything up with my mom. She knows he can be sensitive, especially where his wife is concerned, but couldn't fully calm her anxiety. My brother and sister-in-law said they're considering skipping Christmas. They also made a Facebook post about distancing themselves from non-supportive family. My mom is worried they're going to go forward with their plans to have a baby and will use the child as leverage to force her to be blindly supportive and/or cut me off. I realize she's getting way ahead of herself, but I also understand why this would worry her too. I don't know how to handle this now. I love my brother and I want to be involved in his life, but this is really frustrating me. They're making what I believe is a somewhat selfish and ignorant decision. Then he exaggerated to our mother, and now they're making thinly veiled threats in an attempt to force the family to be supportive. I have to wonder how they'll respond if our parents refuse to give them more money or deny other requests for help. I'm not sure if this is a hill to die on issue or if it's best to let it go. I would appreciate hearing objective opinions. How would you handle this? Do you think I should apologize? I don't think you're factually wrong, and I think your heart was in the right place. But I do think you overstepped. There are few people on the face of the earth who are going to say, I had a real weight and binge eating problem. But then my sister-in-law offered some unsolicited advice, and it totally turned me around. Like your brother and sister-in-law know what she weighs. They presumably have access to the internet, books, or doctors if they want to change her lifestyle habits. It's like smoking. As frustrating as it is, you can't force an adult to give up an unhealthy habit. You have to let them see the light for themselves. Getting too pushy or shamey just makes them dig in. I think you can avoid apologizing for the content of what you said, but you can still apologize for overstepping and offering advice that wasn't asked for. TTC when they're already borrowing? For duck's sake. Not only borrowing money, but sister-in-law quit her job because it was too hard. What does she think raising a child or children is going to be? A walk in the park? Oh wait, no, that's physical exercise. She wouldn't do that either. They're being incredibly selfish. That's always a positive sign for great parents, right? If she cannot work, then why does she feel like it would be a good time to have a baby? Most women gain weight in pregnancy, which will cause further stress to her joints. Which, to be fair, I call BS on her claims of not being able to work. I do think your mom's claims are justified. I have no doubt the baby will be a bargaining chip for them. I met my wife about 6 years ago in grad school. She's from India and I'm African American. We hit it off quick and started dating soon after meeting. Going in, I knew there were going to be some speed bumps on her end due to her parents being extremely cultural. My entire family embraced her immediately, but she understandably wouldn't tell her parents about me. In fact, they would come visit every year, and my existence never came up until the pressure to get married became too real. 2 years into our relationship, she told them. As expected, her parents had a meltdown, and she second-guessed if our relationship was worth it. After a break, she decided this was something she wanted, and her parents basically pretended nothing happened, and marriage was no longer discussed between them. I met them once, and they were apprehensive, but cordial. Later, I found out they said they would never accept me because of my race. We both graduated and got settled in our career paths, and after being together for 4 years, I figured it's time to settle down and proposed. She decided not to tell her parents to avoid a huge fight, and although I disagreed, I let it be her decision to make. Now, 8 months into our marriage, I find out her parents set her up with someone and she doesn't have the guts to tell them she's already married. She's jumping through all these hoops, spinning lies, and saying I don't understand her culture, and she can't just tell them. It's been 5 years of avoidance, and even she admits it's taking a toll on her mental health, but she won't get help. I'm really at a loss on what to do or say to her. No. Your wife not telling her parents she is married helps no one, prevents anyone from getting on with their lives. There's some guy out there who thinks he's a fiancé. Has this guy even been told that his fiancé is at the minimum living with another man? The parents are busy planning some amazingly long and expensive wedding ceremony. You are left in a state of limbo, wondering if your wife is actually serious about your marriage. Your wife knew when she married you that this might lead to complete estrangement between her and her parents and other family. But it is better to be honest now, immediately, and let everyone get on with living the rest of their lives. Update. So I talked to my wife about getting therapy, and last week she went and said it's been helpful. She's still unwilling to give up the charade though. My wife's parents came to the US on Friday. Instead of me moving out, she got herself an Airbnb and is pretending it's her house. She took the day off work to move all her things and decorate the Airbnb with her furnishings. Saturday afternoon, I log into our Netflix account and find my profile was deleted, and her profile was changed to her family name. I know in Indian culture it's inappropriate to express a female's name, or something like that. The spelling of her last name, transliterated in Indian English and American English, is slightly different. It was written in the Indian English way. Also, deleting my profile isn't something she would do. She just wouldn't log into Netflix. I asked her about it, and it turned out she forgot to log out and her dad found it on the TV, but never mentioned it to her. I changed the password to log them out and put everything back to the way it was. Saturday evening, she texted me asking for the new password, and I told her she's not getting it unless she confronts her dad about the profile issue. And if she doesn't, I will. She went on her tired excuses about how I don't understand their culture, and her dad has been giving her an indirect guilt trip about my name being on the Netflix account. She wasn't going to confront him, so I sent him a direct but polite text message, letting him know he crossed a boundary in altering something that doesn't belong to him or his daughter. He responded with a barrage of profane and threatening messages, which were more cringe than criminal. Think Navy SEAL copy-paste, with more randomly placed swear words, name-calling. On top of that, he was boasting about it to his wife, which my wife overheard, and was upset I did that. He also screenshotted it to my wife and sent it to her. My wife was mad at me for doing that, but it is what it is, and she'll have to deal with it. P.S. Usually, she is a strong, independent person, but when it comes to her parents, she admittedly turns into a spineless coward. It's sickening, and I hope therapy helps her long term. I'm usually against ultimatums, but this is the exception that proves the rule, I suppose. She needs to tell them now, or you file for divorce, and she can spend the rest of her life bending over backwards to please them. You can't realistically be married to someone who acts like this, regardless of the reasons. It's simply not practical or fair. Update number 2. She asked for divorce. It was really unexpected Sunday morning, over text on our 1-year anniversary, and I still don't understand her reasons. I went to a therapist today and talked about her complaints as I understood it, and he agrees these are issues that typically don't lead to conflict, much less divorce. I begged her all day Sunday for couples counseling, but she's not open to it and leaving on a trip abroad soon, which I had no idea was happening. We FaceTimed last night and she promised she's never cheated on me, just wasn't happy with me. No arguments, no tension, no silent treatment. She seemed so happy. I am shell-shocked. I'm having a hard time giving her space. She's moved out. We're going to meet this Friday to say goodbye, I guess. Sunday was a day of trying to find out what happened and begging to have her back. Monday was a day of getting the idea of how to proceed and finding lawyers. Today was silent treatment, beyond arranging a meeting for Friday. The song Let Her Go came on the radio at work, and I broke down and was sent home. What do I even discuss with her? How do I approach this? The bottom line is it takes 2 people to make a marriage work, and if your wife doesn't want to make the marriage work anymore, then your marriage is as good as dead. The fact that she never communicated about her issues until she decided to leave you says a lot about her desire to stay with you, in my opinion. My brother and I are twins, born shortly after our Indian parents came to U.S. As brown kids, school was rough, but we were always there for each other. My brother got into an Ivy League school. I got into a good uni. In uni, I met my future husband and his douchebag BFF, D-bag. So after uni, H and I decided to marry. Major drama followed at home. H is white. But brother really stood up for us, and eventually things turned around. I married H. A year later, my brother went to India for work. He was there for 3 years, met an Indian girl, fell in love, got married, and decided to come back to U.S. in 2015. Sister-in-law got a job in a company where H and D-bag work. In December 2017, brother discovered sister-in-law was cheating on him for 4 months with D-bag. He was devastated. Sister-in-law even left him for D-bag after New Year's. But D-Bag discarded her. Sister-in-law had a mental breakdown and did something that got her deported. My brother became a recluse and started avoiding everyone. In May 2018, he got a really good job opportunity in Qatar. He took it and moved away. But before going away, he gave us the full truth. H knew about the affair and even helped D-Bag, sister-in-law, hide the affair. This caused a major strain in my relationship with H. H has apologized to everyone and deeply regrets everything. My brother just won't speak to him, and my parents are very cold towards H. My brother has kept in contact with us for the past 2 years, and he is making 7 figures in Qatar. He also sends my daughter gifts for her birthday. Last Friday on a family call, he informed us that sister-in-law, after going back to India, got medical help for BPD and low self-esteem. He has been making short trips to India since April 2013 to meet up with her and his in-laws till March 2020. Now, during quarantine, they have talked about living together in Qatar after everything normalizes. He has asked my parents to come join him in Qatar, as he never wishes to return to U.S. I'm against my parents moving to Qatar, since I'll be left without any family here. But I think my parents are considering it. So finally I asked, since he has forgiven sister-in-law, when does he plan to forgive my husband and move on? I would like for things to go back to normal. He said he owes my husband nothing, not forgiveness nor relationship. Even if he forgives my husband, he won't ever forget what happened. This made me lose my mind. I told him it feels like he is punishing me for what happened, especially trying to take mom and dad away with him. Why is he being such an a-hole? He told me my husband is the a-hole and not everything is about me. He needs to live his own life, and I should too. He gave mom and dad a proposal. They can decide for themselves. Then cut off the call. Now he isn't taking my calls and my parents are angry at me. Am I the a-hole? Yes, the a-hole. You don't get to dictate people's feelings. Also, your parents are adults. You don't get to decide what they do. It's funny how you say you'll have no family. Does your husband not count as family? Doesn't sound like you've forgiven him. Yes, the a-hole. One of the basic rules to reconciliation after infidelity is to cut out anyone who encouraged it. Your husband was an accomplice. He betrayed your family, specifically your brother, who had stood up for him. Your brother is right. There is no reason for him to engage with your husband in any way. I would have voted not the a-hole if you had just been disappointed in the consequences of your husband's actions. You ratcheted up to become the a-hole, though, by calling his offer to your parents punishment. Framing your parents' decision as taking sides and abandoning you is complete a-hole territory.